Good afternoon. My name is Michael Murray, Strategic Business Operations Director and LGBTQ Audience Lead for AARP California. Welcome to everyone who's joining us live. Today, we are here with special guest Thomas Kingery, Program Manager with Avenidas Rainbow Collective, to discuss Pride Month, as well as LGBTQ resources, events, and more. We encourage you to share the stream now on your own social media page so interested friends and family can tune in as well. And please feel free to ask questions for Thomas or myself in the comments. We will take a few questions live towards the end of today's conversation. Thomas, AARP California is thrilled to have you here with us today as we celebrate Pride Month. Before we dive in, can you tell us more about yourself and the Avenidas Rainbow Collective?
I'd love to, but first I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. I am equally thrilled to be here. AARP is such a great organization that's really been there for the older adult community, and I'm honored for you guys to ask me to be here today. So a little bit about myself and Avenidas Rainbow Collective. So again, my name's Thomas Kingery. So I'm a social worker who spent his career thus far working on helping older adults in the community improve their overall well-being. I started my career as a case manager at the city of Cupertino, but then I moved here to Avenidas, which is a senior enrichment center here in Palo Alto that is very respected, much like AARP, in helping older adults in the community. So I was very excited to get my job here because not only are they well respected in the community, but they're also known for being one of the most innovative nonprofit agencies that focus on older adults in the community. They and to that fact, they allowed me to start this Avenidas Rainbow Collective program, which is a program that is focused on LGBTQ older adults, both as individuals, but also as a community, because we're here to help individuals through their struggles as they age. But also we're here to build community because we believe that by building community, in turn, those individuals are going to be well served as well.
Thank you, Thomas. Now, according to pre-pandemic research, older LGBTQ adults are more likely to experience social isolation and loneliness. During the health pandemic, this issue has only been exacerbated, as we know too well. As a way to address this, I understand that Avenidas is offering new mental health service for clients. Can you tell us more about this and how people can sign up?
Yes. You know, actually, thank you for bringing up this question because isolation and loneliness is a huge concern, not only in the general population of older adults, but specifically in the LGBTQ community. So the mental health services that we're offering people is just one component, one way that we try and help people with isolation and loneliness. We also have many social groups, social events, all held online, by the way, for people to participate in, to sort of just, you know, dip their toe in that pool of engagement with others. Because, you know, the older adults in the LGBTQ community, by the way, I'm sure I don't have to mention to most of you would know this, that they were sort of taught to hide to survive, right, in their life, right? It wasn't okay for them to be gay or lesbian or bi or in any of the letters underneath that LGBTQ umbrella. And so they've had to hide to survive. So as they've gotten older, that's just become their commonplace, right? So we developed a lot of programs to help people step out of that closet that they sort of felt like they needed to be in as older adults, to help them realize that in the environment that we live in today, it's more inclusive, more affirming, more welcoming to them. And we want to make sure that they know that, and make sure that we represent that to them, right? That we're the go-to place for them. So we offer the social engagement opportunities, such as the groups and the events. But then we also offer one-to-one case management services where we'll help people with many things, such as food insecurity, housing insecurity, all those sort of things. But to be honest, the biggest presenting issue I face with these clients is social isolation and loneliness, right? So I'm proud to say that we just recently got donor funding to start paying for mental health services for our clients. And this is very brand new. So people who are maybe not ready to join those groups, they can sign up with me as a case management client, and then I can get them access to these mental health services that they would need to in order to participate in these larger groups. And our goal with the program is, like I said, is to help the individual, but also to build community. And one great thing about our community is the fact that we do have the opportunity to choose our own families. So we do a lot of events with the youth space, the local youth space, where we do intergenerational events to help just help the older adult build positive relationships with people outside of their generation, and that benefits them in a couple of ways, right? That benefits them in the sense that they get some engagement and interaction with people, but they also get to see the community through the perspective of the younger people, because it really is a different experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. It's wonderful to hear about this service, how reassuring that must be, and also to know about the intergenerational element too. We're all in all this together, correct? So I think it's really great to continue to reinforce that. I do want to mention that ARP has some resources. Our Community Connections is another free resource for individuals who are feeling isolated. ARP Community Connections is a website that helps connect you with people in your community, whether you're looking to find local support or help those in need. You can learn more at arpcommunityconnections.org. Also, and if you're just joining us live, don't forget you can ask questions for myself and Thomas in the comments. We will be taking a few questions live towards the end of today's conversation. So Thomas, in addition to the resources you just talked about, what other resources and services does the Avenidas Rainbow Collective offer to the community? And are these resources available to anyone?
That's a great question, Michael, because Avenidas itself is an inclusive agency. We're here for everybody, right? And Avenidas has been in the community for 50 years, serving older adults in the community. So over those 5 decades, Avenidas has developed many programs that members of the Avenidas Rainbow Collective would certainly be able to participate in. And I'll just give you a few examples. So we have the Avenidas Enrichment Center in Palo Alto. So that's more for independent older adults to come in, LGBTQ or not. We're, like I said, we're a total inclusive agency, to participate in workshops, classes, social groups, all of which are available on Zoom. So you don't necessarily have to live in Palo Alto or live in the Bay Area. Log on wherever you're at, join the fun. We've also offered, now this would be a local benefit, but we also, our members would have access to what's called Avenidas Door to Door. So that's where we provide transportation at a very low, affordable cost to our participants to get to doctor's appointments and to get to the enrichment centers or wherever they need to go to get that social engagement. Then we also have the Avenidas Villages, which is a program where we offer a concierge service to older adults who are looking for services such as plumbers, handymen, roofers, whatever the case may be, whatever they're looking for. They're able to call our concierge service, and we're going to connect them with somebody who's been vetted by our agency, so they don't have to worry about being scammed, because that's a big issue in the older adult community. And that they've been also, they'll be able to get discounts for their services through our program. And then we have the Avenidas Care Partners, which our participants would be able to participate in. And Avenidas Care Partners, they offer elder consults. They have an information and assistance line for local resources and organizations that would benefit older adults. And they also offer caregiver support, because we're here for the client, but we're also here for the caregivers that take care of the clients, the older adults. Then we've got the Avenidas Rose Kleiner Center, which, to what I just mentioned, how we're here for the caregiver and the client. The Adult Day Center is for those less independent adults who might need some extra care or attention. And so at the Adult Day Health Center, they're able to go there in the morning, they stay the afternoon. They get meals, engaging activities, socialization. There's a nurse on staff. And this also, so not only does it benefit the client by being there, but also it gives respite to the caregiver. Gives them a few hours a day where they can focus on themselves. And then we've got the Avenidas Volunteer Corps, which supplies the drivers for our door-to-door service. We also have an early literacy program where we work with local schools to help children learn to read. So, and then we have the Chinese Community Center. So, we have so many opportunities and programs at our agency that are not necessarily in the Rainbow Collective, but under the Avenidas umbrella. And so by being a member of the collective, you get access to all those other great resources and programs.
That is a wonderful array of services, and what a gift it is to the community and everyone that can avail themselves to those resources. Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Thank you.
As we know, June is Pride Month, a full 30 days dedicated to celebrating LGBTQ plus identity, equality, and ongoing fight for rights. How is Avenidas Rainbow Collective celebrating Pride this year? And are there opportunities for folks who aren't quite ready to go to in-person events to celebrate Pride Month as well?
Yes. So yes, it is Pride Month, and this is a time for celebration, but it's also a time for looking back on our community and also recognizing what it took to get us to where we are today. Also to rejoice in some of the victories that our community has, such as the right to get married, the equal protection under employment that just happened last year through the federal government. So Avenidas, what we're doing this month is we're holding a few online events in June where we are actually just talking about Pride and what it means to the individual and to the community, and then we also are in July is where we're actually going to have an event. So we'll have an online event, much like we did last year. Last year was a great success. We're going to have lots of games and prizes, a lot of entertainment. And most of the entertainment, by the way, will be other LGBTQ community members, because we want to celebrate our community members and highlight their talents, right? So yeah, go to our website at www.avenidas.org for more information on what we're going to be doing for Pride next month online.
That's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that. And to share a bit about Pride Month, we'd like to show a 5-minute video that captures the history of Pride.
What would you do if no one cared for you? Imagine if you're honest about who you are, you could be killed. That's always been the reality for many LGBT folks since the birth of America. Many people lived in secret, fearful that someone would discover their truth. That was a motivation for Walt Whitman to write poetry that would beckon gay people to safe places where they could build community. Yet most LGBT people were still forced to live in isolation. Then Carl Maria Kurtbeny gave us the term homosexual and the power to identify. And writers like Alice Dunbar Nelson showed up. As a biracial, bisexual woman, her courage in the face of prejudice allowed more stories of LGBT people to be told. Like that of the Two-Spirit Zuni Native American Wewa who impressed President Grover Cleveland, but after her truth was fully known, she was villainized. Over time, LGBT people congregated in safe spaces, and we began to see more representation in art, books, and theater. America soon called women to fight, and a contingent of lesbians formed in the Women's Army Corps, which became a place where lesbian women could be themselves. After the war, many women refused to go back to traditional gender norms. All of this paved the way for the homophile era. For the first time, we saw people publicly demanding livable communities and LGBT equality. Later, scientific studies proved that homosexuality was not a psychiatric disorder that needed to be cured, and put an end to the practice of placing LGBT people in mental asylums. While there was a growing restlessness among gender nonconformists, One by one, LGBT folks rose up to defend themselves, rioting in places like donut shops, cafeterias, and bars. Their courage sprung from Magnus Hirschfeld's safe haven for LGBT folks, which inspired Henry Gerber to form the Society for Human Rights. This motivated countless LGBT people to create change and establish more LGBT organizations across America. By the time of Stonewall, it became impossible to ignore the gay liberation movement. Human rights leaders like Harvey Milk unapologetically called for each of us to live fearlessly in the open. His murder and legacy inspired a new generation of civic activists fighting for the civil liberties of the LGBT people. In solidarity, LGBT people of all ages, races, and genders, and their allies, demanded equality for their community at the first National Gay Rights March. Then, AIDS. Commonly called gay cancer, LGBT people with AIDS were denied health care. Many politicians were apathetic. Those afflicted had to harness the will to survive against all odds, while many in America refused to acknowledge this epidemic. People got angry, sparking a movement that encouraged the community to act up. When news revealed that AIDS affected even those who were not homosexuals, policies finally began to shift. By then, an entire generation had already disappeared, erasing many voices that carried our history. Homophobia and transphobia led to the violent loss of more lives, as gay activists lobbied for protections already offered to other people. Then legislation criminalized discrimination against LGBT folks. The military embraced gay Americans and did away with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Gay couples gained the right to legally marry anywhere in the United States. And now LGBT elders like Marsha Wetzel are fighting and winning legal battles for housing rights, underlining that everyone deserves freedom from harassment and discrimination, especially as we age. Today, National Historic Landmarks recognize significant LGBT events as part of America's history. When faced with death and injustice, LGBT people were forced to hide in the closet until the time was right to emerge as visible and vocal activists for equality. Even today, in the face of rising hate crimes, underrepresentation, and denial, LGBT people still struggle for acceptance and equality. 3 out of 4 LGBT older adults still worry about having enough support from family and friends as they age. This fight continues, and it's a fight where we all have a stake in. In the guiding words of AARP founder Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, what we do for all. Our movement that started as a fight for survival has become a story of resilience. This is progress paved by heroes in the past, present, and into the future. Now more than ever, it's time for all of us to stand up, speak out, and claim care for ourselves, for our LGBT community, and for our future. A living history of the LGBT movement, powered by AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/pride.
I hope you enjoyed that video, which highlighted a couple of key things, but really a lot of our key LGBTQ leaders and movements. Avenidas Rainbow Collective is also a key leader in supporting and fighting for LGBTQ community. Thomas, how can folks support Avenidas Rainbow Collective's work and get involved? Are there also volunteer opportunities?
Yes, and thank you for asking, because we could use the support. We are a pilot program, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. We're a very new program. A pilot program that's being funded through the county and the Santa Clara County Office of LGBTQ Affairs. So we're actually ending our second year of that 2-year pilot program. So it'd be great to have you guys just support us by participating. Come join us in some of our groups, some of our social groups or social events. Just be part of the community, really, through us, to show, so that way we could show the community that, the county, that our program does serve a population. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of older adults in the LGBTQ community are still sort of hiding out, right? They're not out and proud, as you'd say, right? So that has been a struggle with our program is sort of coaxing those people. I always sort of the analogy I use, it's like coaxing a cute little bunny out of a cage, with a little carrot, like, come on, it's okay, you come out, we're gonna love you when you come out. So that's one of the challenges of this program was. Not to mention COVID. I mean, gosh, that's been a challenge for everybody, let alone my program, right? So when we got our pilot program, it was before COVID. We had a whole idea of how this was going to be, but then COVID hit, and we just had to flip everything around and make it work, right? So back to your question, like I said earlier, I go on a tangent sometimes. Is yes, participate in the program itself. Whether it be the support groups or whatever. We do have volunteer opportunities. We definitely can use some friendly phone callers. Because as we mentioned earlier in your program, isolation and loneliness is a big deal in the community of older adults. And so we like to do what's called friendly phone calls, where we just reach out to them just for a check-in every couple of weeks. And to be honest, sometimes those friendly phone calls is literally the only interaction these people have outside of their houses, so that's one way you could support. Another way you could too is write the county, write Santa Clara County and let them know that you support our program and what we're doing, right? Even if you're not necessarily engaged in our programming for whatever reason, although we'd love to have you, even a letter to the county, letting them know that, you heard about our program and you think that it's amazing and that continued funding should be given so that we can continue this on beyond the end of the year. I'm fairly confident it's going to happen, but, I can never get too much support, right? But I do want to mention supporting Avenidas is one thing, but I would really encourage people to support the community as a whole. Even if you don't live in the San Francisco Bay Area, Santa Clara County, where we're at, reach out to your local community centers, your local older adult or senior centers, and let them know that you want a program like this too. You want services that are affirming and inclusive to the LGBTQ community, right? Some things in life you don't get till you ask for, right? So I would just really encourage people to use their voice and bring the same sort of programming that we're lucky enough to have here in Santa Clara County to your communities, and support the LGBTQ community that way.
Thank you, Thomas. Really important for folks to find those services and supports wherever they are. Really appreciate that. So before we take a few questions live, I want to ask a question of you. Who is your favorite LGBTQ hero and why?
Okay, so I have two answers to that question. One is practical, one's not. But the first one is, there's actually a comic book superhero that is a gay superhero, and his name is North Star. And I used to read comic books when I was younger. And so he is my actual hero, North Star. But anyway, as far as a practical answer, that would be Ken Yeager. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Ken Yeager, but Ken Yeager is a local politician and educator here in Santa Clara County. He was actually the first elected a gay man on the San Jose City Council. He was the first gay man to be elected on Santa Clara County Office of Supervisors. And then he also is the first guy to get the LGBTQ flag raised on our county flagpole. So I went to a presentation he did one time early in my career, and he talked about how he was able to achieve these things. And his answer was, I didn't take no for an answer, and I just make things happen. And that to me was like, okay, that's who I want to be. So yeah, Ken Yeager, thank you for being you. And I have to say, I've been lucky enough to meet him, and I'm glad to call him a friend. So yeah, Ken Yeager, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We have time to take a few live questions, and we have a question from a viewer asking, but it sounds like Avenidas, or rather, Thomas, have you seen any number of issues among the LGBTQ older adults during the pandemic? So what is the number one issue among older LGBTQ adults during the pandemic?
Yeah, during again, we're back to the social isolation and loneliness. Honestly, that is the biggest thing that I'm having to help people with. I mean, there's some other issues such as finding in affirming medical providers, right? Some LGBTQ older adults avoid going to the doctor because they don't feel safe and affirmed when they go, right? So that's another one, but really the main one is the social isolation and the loneliness. And it's not just because of the pandemic too. Like I mentioned before, these people, they didn't have the chance that the younger people have today to build families and grow those social support networks. A lot of their friends died in that AIDS epidemic. They were rejected by their families when they were younger. I mean, it's not surprising that the older LGBTQ population is isolated and alone. But that's what Avenidas is here for, to help them not be so alone.
Thank you, Thomas. We have another question that's building on the wonderful resources that you shared with us. And are there any services or resources offered in other languages?
Yes. So, well, the Chinese Community Center is offered in both Chinese and English. The Rose Kleiner Center, Avenidas Rose Kleiner Adult Day Health Center, that we have Chinese, Spanish, and English speakers there. Many of the workshops and classes at the Enrichment Center are in more than one language. I have to admit, most of them are English, but some of the instructors do offer bilingual. But even if there was a language barrier to somebody reaching out and trying to get services, here, I mean, we think outside the box. We do whatever it takes to help people, right? So if you speak a language I don't speak or nobody else around here speak, we'll figure out a way to get an interpreter to get the help that you need. Because we don't take no for an answer, like I said.
That's great. I believe we have time for one more question. And this question is, we know California has a reputation for being more diverse and inclusive. Have you encountered LGBTQ adults who are still experiencing discrimination? And if so, how can the community support these individuals?
Well, yes and no. Like I have some of the clients that I've worked with. So I think there's a difference between perceived discrimination and then actual discrimination, right? So a lot of the clients that I have, like I said, they won't go see doctors because they feel that they're going to be discriminated. And this is because in the past they have been. That doesn't mean that today they will be, but they have this perception of discrimination, which creates a problem for them in getting the care that they need, which in turn creates medical health conditions that they might not, they don't want, right? So there's the prescribed discrimination, but then there's the actual discrimination as well. Like for instance, I just recently had the Palo Alto newspaper did an interview with some of my clients about our program recently. They interviewed 5 people. 4 out of the 5 said no, they don't want their names or pictures or anything in the article because they're fearful of discrimination. The 5th one in the beginning said, oh yeah, for sure, put my picture in there, and say, until the day the article was supposed to come out, he was sitting in his front yard of his apartment complex and he overheard the maintenance person making some homophobic comments. And so he called me immediately and said, oh my gosh, do not put my photo in that newspaper because I don't want my maintenance man to know that I'm gay because I don't know what he would do. You know what I'm saying? So in that regard, that we're still experiencing discrimination, and I guess what you could do to support the community is when you hear this discrimination or this discriminatory talk, call those people out for saying it, right? Like let them know we're not back in the 50s, man. That sort of conversations ain't cool anymore, and it's not acceptable by any means. So you can support your community by being an advocate for the community.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Those are all the live questions we have time for. Thomas, any last words before we close?
Other than thank you so much for having me here and for bringing attention to the older LGBTQ population, because oftentimes they're not seen, but we at Avenidas, we see you, and I know that AARP sees them too. So I just appreciate what you do for the older adult LGBTQ community, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It really has been a pleasure.
Likewise.
For anyone who joined the live stream late, we had the opportunity of speaking with Thomas Kingery, Program Manager with Avenidas Rainbow Collective, to discuss Pride Month, as well as events, resources, and ways to get involved with Avenidas. This conversation is recorded, so if you missed anything, you can go back and watch it again on AARP California's Facebook or YouTube accounts. To learn more about Avenidas Rainbow Collective, visit avenidas.org. To learn about free and publicly available AARP LGBTQ resources, visit aarp.org/pride. Thomas, thank you again for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. And to our viewers, we hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us live. Take care.
Thank you.